Prosecutors, on the other hand, said Diddy was not sorry and that his apology was phony and that there was some serious harm done to the victims of this case. Like you said, they wanted a sentence of at least 11 years. Ultimately, we know a sentence has now been shared with the court of 4 years behind bars for Sean Diddy Combs.
The camera's flash is still echoing off the marble walls of that Manhattan courtroom. We're packed, shoulder to shoulder, pressed in on all sides by the city's heat and a crowd that can only be described as equal parts curious and bloodthirsty. There, at the center, is Sean Diddy Combs, a man who once strode through life like he owned it, now sunk into a defense chair, his posture broken. A suit that hangs looser than it used to, gray streaks carving through what was once the most meticulously maintained fade in music. It's October 3, 2025, a day that will outlive most of us in memory, if not in shame, and the federal judge R.N. Subramanian is about to deliver the sentence. Diddy's children, all of them, are here. One daughter's sobs climbing above the hush, two sons clutching each other like castaways in a sinking ship. Subramanian reads it flatly. 50 months in federal prison, not a day less. The silence that follows is volcanic. No applause, no boos, just the sound of air being sucked from the room as Diddy's world implodes in real time.
Judge says here the data shows a wide variety of sentences. Weighing all the relevant factors, the court determines that the sentence is 50 months of incarceration.
50.
4 years.
4 years.
5-0.
4 years, 2 months.
2 months.
Yep.
Wow.
50 months.
Hear that? 4 years, 2 months?
There's something almost cruel in how the judge cuts through the wailing pleas of Diddy's daughters, that firm, implacable voice carrying above the courtroom, dismissing the carefully curated family testimony with the same precision as he dismissed the defense's tear-soaked video tribute just hours before. For a moment, we're not watching a legal process. We're witnessing the execution of celebrity privilege itself. Gone is the golden aura that shielded stars for decades. This is a public unmasking, the day the velvet rope was yanked away for good. The facts are hard and the numbers even harder. Prosecutors demanded 11 years, hammering Diddy as a danger to society and reminding everyone that his currency was control. The defense, scrambling to salvage anything, pleaded for time served, barely more than a year, and painted a portrait of a broken man who'd learned his lesson. The judge? He split the difference with a gavel strike that sounded like the final downbeat of an empire, not a mere sentence. It's impossible to miss just how far Diddy has fallen. As he stands, shaky before the court, it's clear to everyone, press, victims, jurors, even the bailiff, that this isn't the king of bad boy records anymore. Several reporters whispered to each other about his weight loss, a transformation so stark it borders on shocking. What's left is not the mogul who ordered up Cristal by the case and boasted of freak-off, parties attended by half of Hollywood, but a man who looks like he's been aged by decades in the span of a year behind bars. And it's not just the physical wear, it's the palpable sense of desperation that clings to him. There's no bail to be had, no miracle on the horizon, and every CEO or label exec who might have taken his calls a year ago has vanished like smoke. We're not looking at an industry icon anymore, we're looking at a cautionary tale that can't even get a line of credit, much less a second chance.
4 years, 2 months in prison.
Wow.
He served a year, he gets some time. He gets 15% credit, so he'd be at 14-ish.
2.5 years. 2 months.
So, and then he gets another 15% in the remaining.
Yeah.
He's out in 2 years.
Yeah.
Should have stuck with the original guess.
I know.
Yeah.
But let's rewind for a moment before the sentence, before the cell. Let's go back to May 12th, the day the trial began, and walk into that packed Manhattan courthouse for the first time. The air was thick with anticipation, press corps from every corner of the globe, former bodyguards and label reps lurking in the hallways, and at the center of it all, the bad boy himself. The prosecution wasted no time, laying out a 2-month ordeal for the jury that felt at times like a reality show scripted by the darkest corners of the internet. Cassie Ventura, the key witness and Diddy's ex, was there on day 2, her testimony dropping bombshell after bombshell. She spoke of years of freak-offs, as prosecutors called them, bizarre marathons of voyeuristic encounters, blackmail threats, and a private hell hidden behind platinum records and NDAs. Diddy, meanwhile, kept up the performance, acting every bit the aggrieved superstar, booking a speaking gig in Miami just weeks before sentencing, a move the prosecution skewered as hubris in front of the jury. It was, as the judge would later note, arrogance masquerading as innocence.
Flight where Diddy said to her,
Showed her
she
the video.
testified
Showed her the
that
freak-off video.
he showed her a video of a freak-off that she participated in and said, if you don't participate in another freak-off when we get to New York, I'm gonna put this video out. I'm gonna send it to your mother.
And that's coercion.
She testified
if it's true.
to that.
If the jury
if they believed her,
yeah.
that's coercion.
That's
they would have Cassie.
That trial became a national obsession. By the time the jury got the case at the end of June, the circus had only grown. The government paraded out 3 more victims, pseudonyms intact, painting a portrait of a man who weaponized fame and fortune in ways that made even the most cynical courtroom veterans squirm. And still, the defense clung to the old playbook, highlighting Diddy's philanthropic work, his devotion to family, his untreated trauma. Their arguments began to wear thin, especially as stories leaked of Diddy's jailhouse tantrums and dramatic physical decline. The public, once so hungry for each new development, started to turn exhausted, then quietly appalled. When the verdict finally arrived, guilty on 2 counts under the Mann Act, acquitted of the rest, no one was left celebrating.
For the first time since the day of his verdict. Now, Sean Combs ended up being convicted of 2 charges. Those were transportation for the purpose of prostitution charges. He was let off on the more severe charges of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy.
All of this leads, inevitably, back to the sentencing day. It's a moment so tense it feels like a set piece. Diddy's children, arrayed in the front row, sobbing openly as one after another pleads for their father's freedom. His son, Quincy, voice cracking, insists, "This is a changed man." His daughter, Delilah, begs, "Please, please give our family the chance to heal." In the back, victims sit stiff, faces blank, arms folded. Reporters furiously jot down every word, some already planning their think pieces about the end of the celebrity age. The defense is out of moves. Diddy rises, wipes his face, and faces the bench for what he knows will be the last time as a free man. "I ask your honor for mercy," he says, the line falling from his lips like a closing argument for a life lived at a fever pitch. "I beg your honor for mercy." And there's the pause, the kind of silence that fills a room and drowns out even the sound of your own heart. The judge sits still, unblinking. The camera shutters stutter, capturing the moment for history, or perhaps for posterity's schadenfreude. Diddy's children cling to each other, holding their breath. On one side of the courtroom, the last embers of his empire flicker and fade. On the other, the victim's eyes harden, unmoved, ready for the reckoning they spent years waiting for. The air is thick enough to taste, heavy with judgment, with the full weight of a culture finally calling time on an untouchable icon. "I beg your honor for mercy." The words just hang there, and the room waits, caught between verdict and aftermath, between spectacle and justice, between the last gasp of old power and whatever comes next.
This is not a judge who this job was a upgrade. He took a massive pay cut. He was an accomplished litigator. He has a pedigree that most law students would envy, and he's a very, very brilliant man.
Now the lights are fluorescent and cold. There's no more velvet rope, no velvet anything, just the stink of institutional bleach and a hum that never really goes away. Gone are the sparkling pools of Miami and the polished floors of those LA mansions. What Diddy wakes up to now is a steel bed bolted to the wall, a mattress so thin it's practically a suggestion, and zero hope for privacy. 8 feet by 10, walls streaked by generations of boredom and grief, and not a pillow in sight. Forget silk sheets. He's lucky if he gets a corner of scratchy white bread before it goes moldy. The last Thanksgiving, lunch was a limp slab of turkey, then a peanut butter sandwich for dinner. This is the hell on earth described by the Associated Press and Daily News, where maggots have reportedly crawled from bags of beans, and lawyers allege the food is so revolting, inmates have started hoarding plain rice just to avoid the critters. It's so bleak that even the Bureau of Prisons feels compelled to issue defensive statements denying the existence of maggots, insisting their food is nutritious and their kitchens sparkling clean. Which, if you believe it, we've got a timeshare to sell you in Chernobyl.
Are you concerned that Sean Diddy Combs could be assaulted, violently assaulted? Is that a thing? Because based on what was said in court, it feels like a thing.
We can almost taste the humiliation. One of the most recognizable names in American culture now stands in line with a plastic tray, eyes down, hoping the potatoes are just bland and not moving. His neighbors in MDC Brooklyn aren't fellow moguls. They're a ragtag gallery of the notorious and the forgotten. And in here, status is as fragile as a microwave burrito. Reports say that Diddy's been losing his shine, especially after Luigi Mangione, yes, the man accused of gunning down a healthcare executive, started drawing more fans among the inmates. The New York Post claims Diddy's thrown tantrums about this drop in popularity, but if you're thinking of a diva meltdown, adjust for the fact that nobody here cares how many platinum albums you've got or who you used to date. Some sources close to the facility say he's desperate for any edge, shelling out commissary credit for extra phone minutes or swapping favors just to get a longer call. It's not about getting business done anymore. It's about clawing for relevance in a world that's already moved on.
So apparently Diddy's knee has been bothering him recently, so he reported it. At some point, it was decided that he needed medical care outside of the jail, so he was taken to a Brooklyn hospital.
And the spectacle doesn't end at the cell block. Diddy's former life is streaming on Peacock, the making of a bad boy documentary beaming his glory days into living rooms across America, while the real thing sits in a unit known as 4 North, surrounded by faded murals and the sound of plastic game pieces clacking on battered air hockey tables. Imagine the gut punch. Outside, the narrative is still his, polished and produced. Inside, he's reportedly so isolated, he might as well be a ghost. According to a court reporter, Diddy's physical transformation stunned everyone at his last hearing. Cheeks hollow, hair gray, weight shed by stress, shame, or maybe just the prison cuisine. Is it guilt? Is it fear? Or is it the realization that the game he played for decades was always one bad hand from collapse? Of course, for the tabloids and gossip columns, the question is whether any of it really matters to those locked up with him. Rumors from inside the walls tell a story of a man fraying at the seams. Some insiders claim he's obsessed with news from the outside, bartering for whatever scraps of information he can get about who's talking, who's watching, and whether anyone still cares. The irony bites. While America picks apart his downfall from the comfort of their sofas, Diddy's trying to cut deals for an extra 15 minutes on the payphone. Reportedly, he's been called out for making three-way calls and allegedly offering up snack cakes for a little extra time on the line. The Bureau of Prisons says there's nothing illicit about his calls, but if there's one thing prison and hip-hop have in common, it's that nothing stays secret for long.
So again, after that initial review of his current medical situation during his physical, and then there's follow-up to that process if there's something found, immediately. But, you have to understand, daily, there are medical staff walking through the units, doing what we call sit call and asking inmates, are they okay? And then you have folks that are walking around passing out meds.
There's a tension in the air sharper than anything in his old Ciroc-fueled feuds. On paper, 4 North sounds almost cushy by federal lockup standards. Board games, televisions, even a gym. But if the luxury is relative, so is the misery. Every comfort is a reminder of what's been lost. No security detail, no sycophants. Just the day in, day out grind of slow erasure. And the headlines don't let up. News of other inmate demises, brawls and power outages that left everyone freezing in their cells. This is the Metropolitan Detention Center, where they shut the Manhattan jail after the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and crammed all their problems into Brooklyn. The Bureau insists everything's safe, humane, and properly inspected. Meanwhile, defense attorneys keep hauling out new photos of infested potatoes, and the same tragic rhythm repeats: denial, spin, and the slow, inevitable decay. As days bleed into weeks, the changes are more than skin deep. Industry veterans whisper that Diddy's not just physically diminished, his confidence is in freefall. Former hangers-on and party friends aren't returning calls. The networks that once shielded him now keep their distance, and the rumors have started to circle like sharks. Some say he spends hours staring into space, replaying the trial's final moments. The judge's implacable gaze, the silence after his plea for mercy. Others insist he's trying to cut deals, convinced this can't be how it ends. One thing is certain, in here, fame isn't currency, it's a liability. The court of public opinion has rendered its verdict, and behind bars, even Diddy's bravado can't buy him an upgrade.
Pull out.
And telling people who the sponsors are. So if they want to harass Cadillac and AT&T, that'll happen.
It's not just inside those concrete walls that the story is changing. Out in the world, Diddy's name is being erased at light speed. Brands that once tripped over themselves for a piece of the bad boy magic have now quietly pulled back. Endorsements and partnerships dissolving with a precision that feels less like panic and more like choreography. The entertainment industry, never known for sentimentality, is treating him like a toxic asset. Executives and collaborators who once dined at his parties have unfollowed, deleted, and in some cases are now leaking stories to soften their own reputations. The sudden release of his Peacock documentary has only sharpened the irony. What was conceived as a celebration of a mogul's journey is already being reframed by networks and critics as a sobering warning, a tale of unchecked power gone rotten, packaged just in time for public appetite. There's a growing sense among industry insiders that this distancing was no knee-jerk reaction to a conviction, but a long-brewing strategy that began even as the first rumors reached critical mass. PR consultants, lawyers, and record label chiefs reportedly held closed-door meetings months before sentencing, working to minimize fallout and reposition their own brands far from his. Platforms have started tweaking their homepages, burying his music deeper in their catalogs, while radio programmers quietly purge the playlist. Some fans, too, have joined in the disavowal, flipping from devotion to disgust with a speed that reveals just how precarious celebrity loyalty can be when scandal strikes. If legacy was once a monument, Diddy's is starting to look like a sandcastle at high tide.
And in their complaint, Diddy's attorneys were saying that NBC Universal made the assumption that their client has committed numerous heinous crimes, including serial murder, R of minors and S trafficking of minors.
We can feel the tremor as the industry scrambles to repurpose the narrative. Suddenly, every documentary, every old interview, every think piece is up for reinterpretation. Diddy, once the blueprint for reinvention, has become a case study in the dangers of hubris and excess. There's a chilling symmetry to it. Just as his former collaborators plot their next career moves, media outlets run retrospectives on the risks of idol worship, and pundits muse about the cycle of rise and ruin in American fame. It's not just freedom that's been stripped away in real time, but the illusion of permanence that stardom once promised. In the end, the cautionary tale might outlast the music, and that, for some, may be the deepest cut of all.
If you had day 17 on the Diddy trial as the biggest one yet, guess what? Bingo, you won, because today was probably the most eventful day as far as things that happened that were said on the stand, and most importantly, things that the judge said, because Diddy almost got kicked out of his own trial.
Inside, the ridicule cuts deepest. Sources close to several inmates say there are jokes about his fall, crude nicknames, even stories of bets on whether he'll crack before the first year is up. When we contrast this with his Peacock documentary, still feeding the myth of the untouchable mogul, we can't help but see the schism. Out there, he's larger than life, and here he's just another body, counted at 6 a.m., eating maggot-adjacent beans and waiting for the next 15-minute call. It's humiliation on a loop, a reminder that no empire is immune to rot once the gates close.
Well, I mean, inmates have procedures all the time. I mean, you have folks there with cancer, you have folks there with, serious other chronic diseases, and sometimes it does require individuals to have surgery even while they're on pretrial status.
And while his lawyers strategize and reporters dig for the next leak, the reality is this: every day inside MDC Brooklyn chips away at whatever's left. There are whispers of further investigations, rumors about who might be next, even chatter about his old associates scrambling to rewrite history. The Illuminati rumors, the supposed secret handshakes now, they seem almost quaint compared to the grind of a prison, where not even Jay-Z or Beyoncé's coded gestures can open any doors. Even the internet sleuths have moved on, more interested in Diddy's sun sweatpants than the man himself. So as the lights flicker off over that steel bed, we're left with one final question. Is this just punishment for decades of unchecked power? Or is it the beginning of a reckoning that will spread beyond one man and into the heart of celebrity culture itself? Could 50 months in Brooklyn ever be enough to wash away the stains of a whole empire built on silence, secrets, and spectacle? Tell us what you think in the comments. Should this be the last chapter for Diddy, or are we only at the prologue of Hollywood's next great unraveling? Until then, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and remember, in the world of the rich and infamous, the lights never really go out. They just get replaced with something a whole lot colder. Catch you next time, if you dare.